So I'm going to ask you the question that I'm sure many people are thinking. You are organizing what is shaping up to be a really interesting summit about disinformation. You're assembling really interesting people who are talking about it from all kind of walks of life, from all backgrounds, and all parts of the world. So it's fascinating that you are involved in leading this. But really, the question that you mentioned just before we hit record that you often get is what led you to being in this position? You know, it's not where you started, right?
It isn't. I guess it kind of is. I mean, accounting is inherently an information science, but we've often felt like it was related to fraud and now greenwashing. That's our typical sort of landscape where we explore disinformation. We've used different terminology, and I think I was pretty content there dealing with fraud and trying to prevent fraud with financial reporting standards or improving audit practices as some examples, or thinking in terms of better regulatory infrastructure. The issue was the pandemic hit. And during that window, I started seeing this proliferation that's always been there. I just was much more sensitive to it, of just completely bad information floating through. And I started watching patterns unfold throughout the world. And they looked very much like the fraud stuff that we were seeing and how it operates in my field. And I I just had a whole bunch of questions because I literally am seeing it kill people. The pandemic, bad information about the pandemic killed people. Bad information around nationalistic pride is killing people in war, in genocidal type activities, things like that. And I just was wondering how does this evolve, and what are other people doing to mitigate it? And more importantly, I saw that a lot of the damage is happening outside of the span of our control. We have a very, very, very rigid system about communication within my field. But when you move into the open space, which would be Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, there's almost no infrastructure there for it. There's almost no accountability for it. And it led me to wonder, why isn't that system more accountable when arguably there's significantly more societal damage from that than there might be in a financial fraud? And that finally led me to a bunch of people who were answering questions we're not answering in my field with our research.